doctors tried different medicines over some time. None of them were really working very, very well. And so the doctor had ordered a CT scan. So on June 4th, 2021, Amy took Elisa in to have a CT scan. And then I received a phone call probably half an hour after they had left that appointment and said, you need to come back to the emergency room right away. And of course, when you hear something like that, you have no idea really what that's all about. So of course, when they got home, we rushed back to the emergency room, and the doctor indicated that they had found something, some kind of a mass in Elisa's brain. So they ordered an MRI with contrast so they could see exactly what it is that they were looking for. That's when it was determined that she had a large fusiform aneurysm on her brainstem. So now what? Devastating news for her, 17-year-old, just wrapping up, getting ready to wrap up her junior year in high school. So they transferred her to Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh to try to make a determination on exactly what the next steps might be. We made the trip down there, met with the neurosurgeons and the neurologist. Yes, they did an angiogram. Really, the outcome was that they felt that it could have been there her entire life, and that there really wasn't much that they could do to correct it because of its size and its location. So we were just going to keep an eye on it to see if it was going to progress or if it's going to stay the same, because they felt like it had been there in her entire life. So we went home. They continued to treat Elise for her migraines. She sure was a trooper. She continued to go to school, continued to work at her job at Subway. She even got straight A's in school, didn't let that stop her. Sometimes she did have to stay at home because the symptoms were so bad. But things seemed to be okay at the time. And then on July 23rd, after a weekend with family that we thought things were looking good, no headache pain, she started to experience some neurological issues. She was having difficulty seeing, she was having a fever, and her eye was beginning to droop a little bit. So we again went back to the ER, where they did another scan, and unfortunately they had found that the aneurysm actually had doubled in size from its original prognosis. Yep. So again, they transferred her to Pittsburgh, this time Presbyterian Hospital, UPMC Presbyterian Hospital in Pittsburgh, to try to really figure out what we're going to do. The neurosurgeons, neurologists there, and the nurses, quite frankly, were just amazing. And really what they came up with was they were going to try to do an attempt to do a bypass surgery of the aneurysm in hopes that they could solve the issue. That's tough for a 17-year-old girl to hear that this is really her only option. She had a strong faith, and God didn't bring her to this point without her at least making an attempt, making a try to see if it could help. So that was determined on Friday. That Saturday we went with the surgeons that we were going to have surgery on Monday. That was July 26th. Our oldest son's birthday is on the 25th, so on Saturday, her brothers and her mom and I, we ordered dinner into her room and celebrated his birthday and had dinner. On Monday, July 26th, was the last time that we talked to our daughter at 7 a.m. as she wheeled off to the operating room. They gave us updates throughout the day on what the progress was. Sounded encouraging and sounded promising. It wasn't until a little after 11 p.m. that evening that the surgeons came in with bad news that it was a very difficult and challenging operation that it wasn't going to work. And they also had indicated once they started the surgery that her aneurysm had already begun to leak. So on Tuesday, July 27th, we said our last goodbyes to our daughter, and she passed away. So I'd be remiss if I didn't share a little about Elise. So I mentioned earlier she was just finishing up or had just finished up her junior year in high school and really was looking forward to her senior year, especially with her friends. Of course, looking to go on to college. She was such a happy-go-lucky person. She rarely ever got mad or upset, especially having two older brothers. She just had a zest for life. She was just full of fun and excitement. She loved the beach. She loved to go to the beach. She loved beach-themed crafts. She loved to do those types of things. She had a really strong faith. She really loved to go to church with her mom and I, but the one thing that she really loved about church was the worship music. We had the opportunity, the two of us and her, to attend many different contemporary Christian concerts, and that really made her happy. The other thing she loved to do is she was very crafty. She loved to make crafts, both for her room, for us, for her friends. She loved to decorate her room. I know that we painted her room at least twice because she didn't like the original color and we had to paint it again. She loved to decorate for the holidays. She really, really loved Christmas. She loved to make place settings for family and friends. She also was an amazing baker. You can ask her brothers and friends about that too. She loved to bake, loved to cook. And the one thing she loved as well was her dog, Luna. It's still with us. So why are we here today? So of course, after July 27th and really beginning the grieving process of losing our daughter, somebody had mentioned Googling things, and I just started Googling support for brain aneurysm. And honestly, I stumbled across Todd Helton's name because of what he went through with Ellie. And I actually found 6 different Todd Helton's email addresses online. And I sent emails to all 6 of them and said, "Is this the Todd Helton from Ellie's? Here's my number." And wouldn't you know it, the next day he actually called me. And one of the things that he had said to us that was very helpful to he and his family was his involvement in the B Foundation. And that's when we had a Zoom call with Aaron and Christine and Todd and his wife, and it feels like that's something that we wanted to get involved with. The funny thing about the name of the B Foundation is that our daughter was deathly afraid of bugs, hated bees, and ladybugs and so forth. So now all we can do is think of her when we see the Bee Foundation and we see bees and we see things that say be happy and be kind and ladybugs too. Every time one lands somewhere, it's just a reminder of her. Her uncles used to tease her that she hated ladybugs. Um, but the involvement with the Bee Foundation is because of the things that Christine and Aaron and all the wonderful volunteers and so forth that are doing, advocating for funding research. Christine mentioned going to Washington, D.C., and I encourage you to reach out to your elected officials and ask them to support Ellie's Law. That's something that we are working very hard to help them do that as well. Preventative measures. It was wonderful to hear the equity research that's going on for that. Educating people, knowing the warning signs. Just talking to a couple folks today is that really knowing what that's about, plus the opportunity for testing. I mentioned earlier that the doctor thought it was hormones, but maybe there's some testing that can be done early on that could help. Ultimately, the reason that we support the Bee Foundation is that we hope and pray that no one has to go through or experience what my wife Annie and I have for the last almost 3 years now. So I just thank Christine and Aaron for the opportunity to be here to share our story today. And we will continue. And I thank you for supporting the Bee Foundation with your generous donations. And we ask that you continue to do that. So thanks.